All right, all right, all right. Welcome back to the Misfit Nation. If you are a veteran and you are struggling or feel like you're leading a path towards the darkness, stop and think about those who are around you. Think about how they truly value you, how they will miss you. You are not alone. You need to talk to someone. Someone will listen to you. If you feel like you will be a burden to someone or feel embarrassed to talk to one of your close friends, call the anonymous hotline at 1-800-273-8255 and take option 1 for veterans. If you're a new listener, thanks for joining us. Please subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast apps. This also includes the Military Broadcast Radio app, and check out our family of shows there. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at _Misfit Nation. That's _Misfit Nation. This will keep you up to date with our latest news, episodes, and of course, the stories of our guests. Speaking of which, our next guest lives in Westchester, Pennsylvania and Duck, North Carolina with her husband and dogs, and spends as much time as possible with her 2 Musketeers in Pittsburgh, the home of her beloved Steelers. In addition to continuing to work in corporate America, she teaches yoga, life coaches, leads retreats, and writes about overcoming adversity, grief, and success and sobriety for publications including Elephant Journal and the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette as side hustles. She's just published her first book, We've Got to Stop Meeting Like This, a memoir of missed connections. So without further ado, let's welcome Donna Ferris to the Misfit Nation. Welcome, Donna.
Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be here.
It's awesome to have you on here and connect via, it's very easy to connect now thanks to the internet world and Podmatch and everything like that. So we can reach out and touch people. And like we were talking in the pre-show, you actually had family that grew up not far from where I am here in Paducah, Kentucky there. So
that's right.
We have some close links here, so it's not bad. It's awesome.
Yes.
And your Pittsburgh Steelers picked 2 quarterbacks the other day in the draft, so I'm sure you're happy about that. One very early, one later.
Yeah, that's a little tough to lose Ben, but but it is time for change, I guess.
Yeah, Ben he only had so much left in his tank. He took a lot of hits, but he had to move on, and hopefully he's doing good things with his post NFL career now.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you don't mind, Donna, tell us a little bit about your backstory from as far back as you want to go to how you got to where you are now.
Sure. So if I really have been talking more about the book and about resilience, which I think might be of interest to your listeners. I've listened to some of your podcasts. I find them really inspiring. And I think, my tale is a little bit about trauma. So I had 3 years where I was divorced and then lost 2 people very, very close to me within 2 years. So that was a very, very difficult time for me. And during that time, I was taking yoga teacher training and yoga therapy training. So I thought my life when I started this out was, really bad because I was facing an empty nest, which probably sounds crazy to a lot of people that might be listening, but it felt really sad to me. And I didn't know what I was doing in my life. So I decided to take yoga teacher training. And then within really minutes of that decision, I found out my husband was cheating. And then went down this path with yoga teacher training and divorce at the same time, which I thought was enough of devastation to me at the time. But then I lost one person and then quickly another person. So I didn't really have the ability to kind of compartmentalize the losses because they kept coming. So at some point between, having those experiences happen and doing the yoga teacher training, which was making me be, aware and meditating and realizing how much it was affecting me, I had to kind of figure out some way out of this period. And I had 2 kids that, I was a single parent, I had 2 kids I had to take care of. I had 2 dogs that I loved that I had to take care of as well. And I couldn't just, I didn't feel I could surf my life at that point. I had to figure it out. So that's what the book's about. And I do actually a workshop called Managing Change with Grace that I've been really getting a lot of positive response on, and it has a lot of tools that I use to get through this time.
Awesome. And I started reading your book. I've been pretty busy with work due to world events, but I read as much as I could. I've seen the first part about the Jersey Shore and the condo and such. And I grew up in New Jersey and got kicked out of the Jersey Shore many times as a youth before the fist pumping stuff on MTV. But I understand getting bored with your dream, as you said there in the prologue there, and your story gets a lot deeper as you get into the book, and it shows your resilience as a human. And a lot of people don't understand how resilient they can be. Did you know before this happened how resilient you were, or did you just have it in the back of your mind that maybe I'll be strong enough to get through things?
Yeah, I mean, I think I had no idea I could get through it. I think there was definitely times. I think the divorce to start with, I really believed in marriage. I thought this was something I was going to be in for the rest of my life, even if I wasn't happy. So, when that fell apart, I had an inkling that I could get through it. I think I had seen enough people get through it. But then when I lost the two people in a short period of time, it really felt like I couldn't get out of that. That felt devastating. And what happens too, which you may have heard from other people or experienced yourself, is everybody else is kind of saying, oh no, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening to you. So you kind of get the outside world also telling you that this is devastating. So it's really hard to get out of it. But luckily at the time, I kind of fell into some patterns which helped me get out of it. I did daily meditation and readings that really helped me a lot. Yoga helped me a lot. When you're going through difficult times, just having a belief that there might be a little bit of positive each day, not a lot. You can't really handle, 5% happier, but maybe 3% happier. You might be able to manage. So finding just something every day that could kind of lift me up enough to imagine that there might be, another side to this. But when you're in the depths of it, it's really hard to see it. And that's one of the things I really recommend people do is try to identify, some self-care, some things that they really like to do that can lift them up just a little bit. Because, when you lose somebody, you can feel there's almost a guilt around not feeling bad all the time. There's almost, you're expected to feel that way, and not that you don't miss the person and you don't feel the loss, but, you also need to go on living. They would want you to go on living. So figuring that out is really important on how you're going to continue. It's really important.
We like to say here on the show, you like to stack victories. So each day you do things that are, like you said, do 3%, 5% happiness. If you can stack victories each day,
yeah,
that builds that happiness for you, or builds something else to think about besides the pain that's going on in your life, and kind of helps you build that resilience, that resilient lifestyle to keep moving forward. Like you said, those we lose, they don't want us to sit and grieve our whole lives or just perpetuate that grief for forever. They want us to go on with their lives and live our lives like they would have wanted us to in the first place. So I think that's a very good point you brought up there.
Yeah, I love that, stacking victories. I think that's a really good way of putting it. I like that a lot. And I think that when you have losses like this too, there's trauma around it, right? And there's a lot of different ways to deal with trauma. I personally did emotional freedom technique, which was very helpful. That's that tapping technique that's used a lot in PTSD. And there's other similar types of tools, but as I read during this time, if you don't find a way to kind of get past this difficult time, especially if you have traumatic grief, you can get sick within 12 to 18 months. So it's important to kind of realize that you're in it, try to find a way to accept what's happened and find a way to learn from it and move forward. I think one of the most important things about losing somebody is realizing how short life really is, and that we need to make the most of it as we move forward. Sounds really easy to do. It's not. I think we all know this, but it is a reminder of how precious the life that we have is.
And another thing, enjoy every moment of life. Don't harp on things. Enjoy things moving forward. I think that helps a lot of people to make it through and to actually have a productive day or productive week, month, year, and just keep stacking until you get to the point where you still have that memory, but you're also having a good life at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. And the gratitude. I think you were getting to that. Like Brene Brown says, you can't, people that in all our studies, people that have experienced joy or have joyful lives, always have gratitude in there. And I know sometimes people can kind of go, oh no, she's going to talk about a gratitude journal, and I'm not. I just, even if you can just be thankful for little things, like, when I was going through this time, I could just be grateful that there was milk in the fridge that wasn't spoiled from my coffee. That was all I got, but I could be grateful for that. Everything else could kind of fall apart, but like at least that one little thing is enough to say, okay, that's something. And that made a huge difference for me during that time.
I bet it did. These experiences, I mean, they all stacked on you at one time. We say stack victories. You stacked a lot of hardships on you at one time. How did that change your perspective on life moving forward?
Thank you for asking that. That's a good question. It changed not only my perspective, but it changed me, I think. I mean, I've had people read the book and say, you literally changed as a person. I mean, I came in as a hard charging, corporate type, I'd been pretty successful. I had a lot of things, and that was important to me. And I had starting to realize that it wasn't that important to have things, but I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know how else, I started off the book saying, I wanted friends that I didn't have connect with in just wine, work, and shopping, because that's pretty much what I was about. And so during the course of this, because, I had these repeated things happen and my world kind of fell apart. And then I realized just how important it just wasn't. Like, I would have given away everything I owned to get back days with the people that I lost. And that was, that fundamentally changed me. And during, soon after this time, I sold my house. I divested of a lot of the things I had. And you mentioned I'm in Duck, North Carolina. I bought a place that I could do retreats at to help people going through similar times, grief and sobriety. Eventually, also, I became sober, because one of the things, great thing to do is if you write your story and you keep seeing, things that happen, the bad things happen when you have wine in your hand, you tend to go, oh, wait a minute, that's not helping me either. And so, I made all these different changes. So I think the biggest thing that probably changed is that, the life is too short piece of that discussion that we had earlier. And I think it's everywhere. Like, the part of the reason I got sober was, I wanted to remember everything that was happening in my life and really use all of the time of my life. And I was constantly sitting, watching Bravo, which I love still, but I don't drink anymore. And so I would just kind of lose that whole night, every night. So I think everything is around, and that's why I wrote the book, and that's why I'm here talking to you, is, can I help people with tools, on their journey, that will help them get through difficult times. And we've been through some really difficult times here in the last few years. And I think a lot of people are coming out now and trying to figure out what their lives are all about, after COVID, after the difficulty we've been through.
The last 2+ years now with the COVID, and of course the media, both sides of the media, ripping us apart at the seams to try to make us become enemies within each other, and that hurts more than they understand, I guess. I mean, I know they want ratings, but it hurts a lot more than it actually helps. It might help the one person that's listening to them that likes them. That's why I stopped watching the news a long time ago. When I was deployed, I stopped watching the news because I would just get mad at what they were saying, because it wasn't true. And I told my parents not to watch it while I was deployed, and of course they didn't listen. They're still glued to it. My dad still watches the news every night, and it's like the Bible for me. He has to watch the news and see what's going on, what the lottery numbers are, what the weather is, and get everything the same as it always has been. But I don't watch it at all. I don't even have TV here. I watch Netflix a lot, but
me too. Me too. I'm the same.
It.
I don't really watch news at all. I mean, I understand where you're coming from. I watch CNBC occasionally because it tends to distill the sides and it becomes numbers. But beyond that, even that can be swayed. So I tend not to watch too much of it myself. I agree.
So, I mean, you made the decision to go to sobriety. What approach did you use to get sober? Because you said you always had that wine in your hand through good times and bad times, and there was always something that there was Donna with that wine. So what approach did you take to make that
the decision?
Yeah.
So I did the alcohol experiment, which is it's a 30-day program done by This Naked Mind, and it's Annie Grace is the woman who started it. And I just happened to hear her on a podcast. It was about 3 days after my beta reader for my book said to me, I'm really disappointed. I thought you were going to talk about your drinking problem. And I hadn't talked about my drink. I didn't actually acknowledge I had a drinking problem until she said it. I think that was the moment. Because I didn't bottom out in drinking. It took me years to kind of like decide that it was time to stop. And it was that final thing. So we had that conversation. I was shocked and angry, of course. And then 3 days later, I'm walking my dog in Westchester on the sidewalk, and I hear this podcast by Dan Harris, 10% Happier podcast with Annie Grace. And I actually signed up for the alcohol experiment for March 1st, 2021. And I've been sober since that day. And her approach is pretty interesting. She tells you can drink the whole way through the 30-day experiment if you want to, but she progressively tells you all the reasons that you shouldn't, including, mostly things like, for me, I had anxiety. So for me, she, showed the health and the scientific reasons why alcohol hurts anxiety and makes you more anxious. And that was one of the main factors, that and the cancer issues that it can create, that I quit. I mean, she gives you that type of information. You can't deny it. It's like, oh, well, wait a minute. And for me, I was already on this wellness journey. I was, drinking almond milk, and I was trying to low fat, and, all these different things. And then I'd still be drinking 6 bottles of Chardonnay. So it didn't really work. It was kind of like, I couldn't unsee that, I had to say, okay, well, that's not really good for me. What am I doing?
I mean, it's over a year now. So it's a very good thing. Congratulations on that, and great work. And I recognize, like you said, not recognizing you have the problem. That kind of helps too. Having someone reach out and say, "I'm surprised you didn't talk about your drinking problem." What do you mean? So, yeah.
And I actually couldn't say. I had to actually cop to it. It was like hard because we were across from each other, and I had to say, I should have. And then I was like, oh my God, I just admitted to this. It was a hard one. It was a really hard one, but it was a gift, and I didn't know her. So I couldn't, and probably that's why she said it. I mean, and I've had other people say things. There are other leads in the book, that they say, oh, well, I wish you would have gone more into this. And there's a lot of things when you write a book, you have to cut them. But that's one that I really, I still had written it. I had written my way into this problem that I had to admit.
So how long after you started your journey did the book come out? The sobriety journey.
I was I was sober March 1st, and the book came out January 1 of this year.
Oh wow, good. So
yeah, so in the process of that too is that when I had that, there was a lot of thoughts that I didn't talk about my drinking, that I had to go back in, and now that I was being honest, I had to say, well, this is what I was really thinking, right? And I was constantly thinking when I woke up, like, why did I do that again? Like, why did I blow through the 2 drinks and go to 5, which, is a bottle of wine, which I happen to know. It takes 5 of my glasses of wine is a bottle of wine. So I had to redo some of the book because, I wanted to be honest about it at that point, is what I was really thinking during those times.
And I'm sure it helped out and helped make the book have more clarity for not just you, but for those who get to read it and say, hey, I have the same issue. This is going to help me out now and push them forward. Yeah,
because the problem for us, what we call ourselves gray area drinkers for whatever reason, but we do. It's kind of like it is hard to see it until, for me, it was, I realized that I was, well, the beta reader told me, but I also realized that I was constantly counting how many glasses I was having, and I was trying to stop, but I couldn't. I was having this fight with it. I was feeling bad every time I went to the wine store, and I feel bad about myself, but I had to go. That fight with myself, once I decided to quit, it all went away. All that energy that I was, and money and calories that I was, had around this thing went away, and it's been a relief, to not fight with it. And I still see people fighting with it, and I feel for them. I hope they find peace with it one way or the other. I'm not a missionary to get everybody sober. I know there's a lot of people that can drink, and do it in a way that's okay for them. I'm just not one of them.
I don't know if you drank 6 bottles of Chardonnay in a night. That's a lot. Hopefully it's like over a
No,
weekend or something.
No, I mean, I would say there's times, with other people that you end up drinking a couple,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, by nature of a group of people over an evening, it's not pretty what that looks like for me, but but I know I did it. Yeah, I did it.
Make some nice lamps out of bottles. That's good.
Exactly. I had all the candlesticks. I was good. I could put candles in every bottle. They had nice little drippies down them. It was very nice. I mean, I was the wine lady. I had a lot of, I had all the things. Yeah.
It's like a fancy Italian restaurant. The wine, the wax coming down the wine bottle.
Exactly. I knew all the pairings too. I mean, I could do it. I still can. I just
you don't need to.
It
it's not.
I
for
just
you
don't
now.
need to. Yeah, I'm a much cheaper date. That's for sure. It's funny how much you spend. Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. It's funny how much you spend on drinks.
Definitely. Are there any regrets that you have pre all the adversity happening to now?
I think it's always around the kids. I think it's always, there's things that I wish I had done differently around the divorce. I wish I had, told my kids differently about the divorce. I wish that I had handled myself better. I mean, some of the most difficult behavior in the book is probably around that time. I was drinking too much. As I went back out into online dating, I, thought of myself first. It was, I suddenly had this midlife crisis, which was, I had a lot of fun online dating, but, I didn't put my kids probably first during that time. Luckily, they were mostly adults, but in looking back, I wish I had done better with that. They've been very kind and they would, they don't tell me these things, but I know from writing the book, you look back at it, it's not my favorite things. And I wish there was times where I would get annoyed about little things with people I loved that I wish I hadn't done. I wish that I had taken the time to realize that I could lose them. And I think that is something we all do. It's that guilt around loss. I think I mentioned before. But I think you also said so eloquently earlier, they loved you, they don't want you to be unhappy. I think that's exactly true. So trying to remember those things, but also as you go forward, not doing them, trying, if you get frustrated or if you're going through a tough day, trying not to take that out on people around you, but it's not easy to do. It's really not.
It takes a lot of control and resilience to not take it out on others, especially if you're having a bad day and the other person doesn't know you're having a bad day, and they can say one thing and it'll just snowball into something horrible, and you wind up losing a friend or you get in trouble for something they shouldn't have done at that point. And that's a very bad thing that can happen.
Building awareness that you're feeling that way,
right.
And then knowing to step away from the situation or eat. A lot of times for me, it's just I need to eat or step away from the situation somehow will help a lot. But those are the things I regret is the way the way I may have treated people during those times.
So I mean, you conquered, I wouldn't say conquered, you battled through this adversity and you became sober, you wrote your book. That's a definition of success right there for most people on the outside looking in. Do you view it as success, or what is your definition of success?
Oh, I love that question. I think my definition of success is now being able to be myself, with all of these facets. I think when I had in the book, I talk about I had, childhood trauma, and I had all these things happen to me. And then I was drinking, too. I had all these different compartments that I had in my life that were, affecting how I reacted around people. And, finding a way to be your actual self as much as possible in all of the places that you are in, the people that you interact with, the work that you do. I think that's success. If you can find a way to be your actual self as much as possible, and not have to hold things back. And that doesn't mean that means also you have to be kind, and you have to have, it doesn't mean that you tell everybody exactly what you think all the time. It's that you can be your all parts of yourself and not hold back. And I think that's hard. I think that's incredibly hard in in work today. I mean, I have a job, and I don't talk about my employer because I keep these things separate, but I do have a place that I can do that, today. I can be myself, and I can, talk about these things and be accepted. And I think that's what you want. You want to have that ability to be yourself. And it's a big deal. I think it's hard for a lot of people.
Definitely is. And like you said, having that work life balance like you have right now, and being the same person at work as you are in life, that's sometimes it's not attainable for some people, because if you're themselves at work, they'll probably get fired. And
Yeah.
so you have to really be different in all aspects of their lives. So it's really hard to do that for some people. I try the same way as you, be the same person everywhere I go, and listen to people, and then answer or respond to what they're saying at that point, and not just jump on them and things like that, because that makes it a horrible situation for not just you trying to be your true self, but for them trying to get a point across.
Yeah. I mean, and that doesn't mean that you tell them everything that's going on with you, but it means that you can have genuine connection with people, because everybody, the hope is we get to a point where we all, there's no bad othering. This is what Tara Brach calls it, where you look at somebody and then you say they're different than you, and they're wrong, and they're not, finding ways to connect with people, one-on-one, and we all can connect on something. Sharon Salzberg says, at least everybody wants to be happy. Even if somebody you don't, like, they want to be happy just as much as you want to be happy. That's something you can connect on, and finding those ways to connect with people and being in environments where you can do that more often than not. I feel like that's success. I can't really, because I don't really care about, I'm not saying I don't care about money, but I don't care about money the way I did, right? That was the only measure of success. The money, the material, and all of that. I think that's what's changed in the course of this time, and losing the things I lost, and just getting, really having everything shift. That's the benefit, is that I see things, very differently, and connect very differently than I used to, which is a gift for me.
Awesome. And it's great that you have the clarity now to see that, and be able to acknowledge that, and move forward. If there's a listener out there that's going through some, I'm sure not everyone's going to go through as much as you went through in one period, but if they're going through a snowball effect in their lives of bad things, what kind of tips would you give them to try to process it and get through it?
I think the number one thing to do is identify things that make you feel safe and secure, and what they are. I think one of the things that I learned from my yoga therapy training is that we can't really tell anybody anything. We can only create a safe space for them to kind of have their own epiphanies, their own journey. So I think, whatever way that you internalize and figure out and listen to your brain, listen to what you need, and what self-care you need, and really lean on that during that time. Because, if you lose somebody, or you lose your job or whatever, you won't be able to do your next best thing if you're not sleeping, or not eating, or drinking, or doing drugs, or a lot of other things. If you're not taking care of your body, and your mind and spirit, you won't be able to do the next best thing for you. So it's really coming back to that one thing. And I had it today. I had something at work, and it just was really a frustrating situation. And I needed to think about what my next best thing was, but I was starving. And so I went upstairs and I heated up something, and then, and I sat back and I took care of myself for 5 or 10 minutes, right? And then I was able to think clearly for my next best thing. But if I hadn't done that, I would have probably zipped off a mean email and 20 other things that probably would have, in the end, created more problems for me, right? So I think that's the big thing, and it's not an easy thing to do. It's not the first thing we do. It's not, in most cases. I'm not saying this is easy. It's not. But I do think that I have a list of things that I do when I am feeling that overwhelmed, edgy way. I have this list of things, and it usually starts off with eating and sleeping, and usually can I walk outside? Could I walk outside for 5 minutes? And I bet it will feel differently, hopefully. Dogs are good too. Dogs are great for that too.
I have 4 of them. I understand.
Ah, they're the best. They're the best.
They're the best and the worst sometimes.
I hear that. I hear that.
Donna, where's the best place for someone to pick up your book, and how's someone get in contact with you, maybe talk to you about getting into yoga or going to your retreats in Dublin, North Carolina?
No, that's great. And I'm actually doing a workshop at Kripalu, which is the #1 yoga retreat center in the country, and that's in October. The best way to get my book, I'm on Amazon, but also you can get me in Barnes and Nobles. Independent bookstores can also find the book. So I'm kind of wide. I'm also on Audible. So there's an audio version of the book, which I'm pretty happy with. And then to find me, you can just Google Donna Ferris, Ferris, and yoga, and you'll come up with me. But the actual site is minichangeyoga.com. So it's mini like the car, because I had one and I love my mini. Change and then yoga, all one word, and you'll find me. But I'm on Facebook, with Donna Ferris. You'll find me there too, and Instagram.
Awesome. Thank you, Donna, for taking some of your time to share with the Misfit Nation your journey, your book, your story of resilience. It was an amazing chat.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you to your listeners for their service.
Awesome. Thank you.